Well, Labor has come under fire overnight for failing to disendorse a candidate in Queensland over former tweets attacking the Pope and the Catholic Church. Labor's candidate for the seat of Flynn, Helen Medell, says she takes responsibility for the social media posts, which included accusing the late Pope Francis of, quote, ongoing support of pedos, end quote. The coalition has urged Labor to dump her as a candidate, but when asked about the posts, Deputy Prime Minister Richard Marles declined to condemn them. For their take, let's bring in Housing Minister Clare O'Neil and Shadow Finance Minister Jane Hume. Good morning. Clare, we'll start with you, obviously. Will Labor disendorse this candidate?
Well, Nat, could I just first say how sorry I am for people who are mourning the death of the Pope at the moment. I spent almost all my education in the Catholic system and was raised as a Catholic myself, and I know this is a really painful time for a lot of people. The Pope was a great leader of the Church and someone who brought charity and empathy right to the centre of the Catholic Church's activities, which is something that I greatly admired about him. Your question about the candidate, this is a person who has counselled child sexual abuse victims. She's seen firsthand some of the damage that's been done to families and communities, and she made some intemperate comments 5 years ago, and I think if we're counting out anyone who's ever said anything intemperate, then most people in Australia are probably never going to be eligible to sit for Parliament. This is a person with a really important record who's done very good work with children who really needed help, and I think her feelings are strong and understandable when it comes to child sexual abuse. Okay,
so does that excuse a tweet like this, a public comment like this, using that word?
Well, Nat, I don't think anyone's trying to excuse it. I think this is a person who's counselled child sex abuse victims, so I'm sure that we can understand that she's got really strong feelings about this. And these were tweets that she wrote 5 years ago. And I just say, again, if we're going to use these kind of standards, people do say the wrong thing sometimes. The important thing is that they front up and take responsibility for the comments, and that's what she's done.
Yeah. So you wouldn't even condemn the comments though, Clare? I mean, they really are inappropriate, particularly at the time that we're going through right now, as you rightly said, and they're completely at odds with the views of the Prime Minister. I think this is a good opportunity for you to come out and condemn the comments.
Well, really respectfully to you, Jane, these are things that she wrote on Twitter 5 years ago. These are not things that she said yesterday when the world's in mourning for someone who's been a very important leader for the Catholic Church. I know in politics it's common for, big ruckuses to be started about these things. The honest situation is this is a person who wrote some things that she now regrets 5 years ago on Twitter. And I'd say again, Jane, if we could go back 5 years for you or to me, we'd probably said things that we regret.
I don't accuse people of being pedophiles.
The important thing is that, this woman feels really strongly about this issue, as I do, as, people who've had to deal with these issues have, there's a lot of pain out there because of institutional child...
So you're going to defend her rather than condemn her here?
There's a lot of pain out there from, institutional child sexual abuse. I don't think that's particularly newsworthy, and, she made comments about it 5 years ago.
OK, I think we'll leave it there and we'll move on. A new analysis of Newspoll this morning shows women swinging away from the coalition over the course of the election. Results from January to March of this year had the coalition in the lead among women, 51 to 49. That has now flipped by 5 points in April, a large amount to give Labor a 54 to 46 lead. Jane, are you concerned that pushing for people to get back to the office, which affects a lot of people, could have contributed to that?
Nat, asking public servants to return back to the office in the same proportions as the private sector was the policy that we had. We've decided that was a mistake because we would have caught up people that couldn't have been fallen into that net, that shouldn't have fallen into that net. But can we be honest about this here? This has been a concerted effort by the Labor Party to sling mud at Peter Dutton personally. They've done it On every level, they've tried to sling mud on the basis of his appearance, his record as a police officer, his record as a very successful small business person. And when you spend millions of dollars slinging mud, sometimes that sticks. But I think this is really important for your viewers at home to understand. This is the Peter Dutton that I know. Peter Dutton has surrounded himself with more women in his shadow cabinet than any other Liberal leader before. I've served as a Member of Parliament under Tony Abbott, under Malcolm Turnbull, under Scott Morrison and under Peter Dutton, and Peter Dutton is by far the best leader that I have worked for. His deputy is female. His leader of the Senate is female. His deputy leader of the Senate is female. The majority of his leadership team, a huge number of his leadership team are female. He has treated women with more respect, more consideration and more conscience than any leader that I've worked with. He is at the forefront of making sure that Australian women go forth with empowerment rather than dependency. We want to make sure that we put all Australians, not just Australian women, in a position where they are not just safe in their own homes, safe in their own communities, but they go forward with opportunities to prosper and succeed economically as well. So I think this is a very successful mudslinging exercise. I don't think that Clare can possibly defend it. In fact, you know what? I've actually heard Peter Dutton go out when Clare was really under pressure, when she was at her most under pressure in her own portfolio after releasing all those criminals. Peter Dutton went out and defended her. I'll be interested to see whether she will go out and return the same compliment.
OK, look, we know the internal polling of both parties is putting this closer, and particularly in marginal seats. But Clare, I mean, Jane's basically saying the Labor Party's spent a lot of money to be mean to Peter Dutton, and it is working. What do you say?
That's right.
Well, I think that's just a whole bunch of excuses that we've heard there from Jane. And, you know, Nat, you mentioned this work from home terrible doozy that the Coalition put forward. And it just demonstrated that there's just a lack of understanding about what goes on in the lives of Australian women there. I mean, working from home has become integral to how a family, you know, many families in my community.
So you're seriously suggesting that you haven't thrown any mud?
Sorry,
Clare.
Jane, do you mind
right?
if I speak, Jane, if you don't mind not interrupting me?
Sling away.
This work from home issue, you know, it was a terrible thing to do. And I talk to families in my community.
And it's not our policy.
And they're saying to me, this is
our policy.
They're saying to me, this is the only way that our family can actually get through the week.
And it's not our policy, so stop talking about it, Clare.
I'm so sorry, Jane. Can we try to just be polite to each other? You've had your turn. I've been polite, and now I'd like you to be polite to me.
30 seconds, Clare.
So I think work from home is a real problem, but it just reflects a broader issue.
But it's not our policy, Clare.
It just reflects a broader issue for the Coalition.
And it's not our policy, so you can keep talking about it,
Jane,
but it's not our policy.
you are being so incredibly rude. Jane, please be quiet so I can say something.
But you're talking about something that is irrelevant.
Sorry, Jane, this is a democracy and I'm a politician trying to have my say. I listen to you politely. Can you please extend me that courtesy? But you're slinging mud and you're continuing to do
so.
Nat, can you silence her microphone, please?
You know what? I'd love to. I think you got your point across.
I don't really feel that I did.
Okay, this is
a really big issue for the Coalition. Yep. We are Australia's first majority government, and protecting and defending women is at the heart of everything we do. You've seen us lower the gender pay gap, put proper protections in place against domestic violence, protect those critical things like working from home, lower childcare fees, better support for aged care workers and childcare workers. These things happen when women have a proper voice in a government, as they do in ours.
As they do in ours too.
Jane, I really think we've each had a go. Thank you very much. We'll see you next week. Here's Chevo.